Are live. All right. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Pugs and Parker 9 o'clock stream. We call it Pillow Talk. Pugs and Parker proudly present Pillow Talk on the Radio Misfits podcast platform. We do this every Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's the second of two streams that I do each and every day. The first one, we call that High Noon. I do that at class. What time? What time? High noon, of course, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time every day. That's current events driven. That's hot topics, trends, headlines, anything that people are buzzing about. If it's a headline and people are talking about it, I try to bring it to you every Monday through Friday, noon till whenever. It's a cheat sheet for your day. I don't know where Parker is. I know that Parker's around here somewhere. He's up in these parts. I don't know. I was talking to him earlier today. Did he send me a text? Let's see here. I have no idea where James is. I mean, that's okay. I got stuff. Hold on. Okay. I don't know. The last text that he sent me was, hey, Jeff Ballard, how are you? Jeff Ballard's here. Who else is in the chat room? Let's have some chat room small talk while we wait for James to show up. I mean, I got other things. Hey, here's something interesting that I just learned about. This is something that I didn't know. Again, this is like time filler stuff. So, man, okay, so this is hard because I people in Texas don't really understand what's going on with like sports gambling in states that have made it legal to sports gamble. It's everywhere. It is like sports gambling has taken over. I mean, just case in point, we'll use my home state of Illinois. Illinois legalized gambling, phone gambling, app gambling, whatever. You can place a bet on the game tonight just by sitting in your living room off your phone. They legalized that, and it's so big. Oh my God, everybody's a gambler now. But I found this thing. I was listening to this show, and they were talking about how times have changed. How after every like gambling commercial for like FanDuel or all these big companies, they always have to say, if you've got a problem with gambling, please contact the United Gambling, whatever, that kind of thing, where they gotta like they're trying to lure you into a bad habit, but they're also saying that if you've got the bad habit, here's where you go. So check this out. They were talking about this, and I didn't believe it was true. I thought there's no way that that's a true thing. Did you guys know that there was a Flintstones episode about, hold on, we'll find it here. All right. So like there was a Flintstone episode where like we take gambling real seriously now, right? It's like, if you've got a problem with gambling, it's very serious. It's like an addiction. Gambling is an addiction. Gambling is a disease. All this shit. So there was an entire Flintstones episode, I guess, where Fred became like a gambling addict, and it was played for laughs. I'm not shitting you. Here, so this is the only clip of it I could find, but I found some other things that were written about it, about how they didn't see people who were degenerate gamblers as necessarily suffering from an illness back then. They didn't really care. Here you go. All right, so this is titled The Flintstones Bet, Bet, Bet. And it's the episode where Fred becomes a gambling addict.
Hey, Fred, open up.
What do you want?
How about a game of marbles, Fred?
Marbles? Come right in, boy. I need somebody to practice with. I have to get real good.
Why, Fred?
I got my reasons.
Hey, tell you what, Fred. We'll play for a nickel if you want to bet.
Bet?
Tell me that Fred's and then it went to a commercial. That's all I could find from it. But it was like a real episode where Fred became a degenerate gambler, and everybody just thought it was the cutest thing. It was the fun. Yeah, whatever. All right. So we got other things that we can do. But I feel like we should check in with James. What's going on with him? I got a new phone here. I've never actually called somebody from. How do I do this now? No, that ain't gonna work. Hold on. Here we go. Maybe this one will. Yeah. All right. Let me see if I can call James. Just call. All right. I'll just use the phone like this. He's not answering his phone. This could be bad. It's not bad. Why would we go pessimistic?
Hey, this is James Parker.
Yeah, all right, nobody cares. All right, so I don't know where James is. So in lieu of that, maybe I'll call. We were gonna have Emil on, who I refer to in my phone as Buffalo. He's got some theories about the Alex Murdaugh trial. I don't know if you were watching it.
Hello.
Hey, you want to go and sign on? Because I don't know where the hell James is. So you can just come on from the beginning. We'll do the Murtaugh stuff.
Oh, James isn't there?
He's MIA. He's not answering his phone. So
didn't you send me an email?
Yeah, send you a link. All right, sign in. We'll talk to you in a minute. All right, there he goes. Let's see here. All right. And now James will show up and everything will be screwed. Kevin Barber says, newsflash, Succession. What the? Of course. All right, now he's here. Oh, my God. Hold on. Yeah, James, we got you. James is here.
Thank you.
Why no camera?
It's coming. It's loading up. Sorry, I was doing something very important. I was watching Seinfeld on Netflix and just lost track of time because I'm an idiot.
Okay.
There's no better excuse. I wish I had one, but I'd rather tell you the truth and look stupid.
Yeah. All right. Well, I had to call an audible because we were gonna have Emil on because Emil and I have been Murtaughing out all day. I don't know. Are you following the Alex Murdaugh trial? He took the stand today. Like, no, he shouldn't have taken the stand, but he took the stand today.
Wait,
and it was
who's
great.
Murtaugh? Murtaugh and what? Because Murtaugh for me is the guy from Outlander. That's
No, dude. Murtaugh, we talked about him all the time. He's dude from South Carolina, the big prominent family, the lawyer. He paid someone to try and
yeah. Now I remember. No.
But then he also killed his wife and his son, and he got away with it for a bunch of years. But then they put him on trial for it, and he's on trial for murdering his wife and his son right now in South Carolina. And he took the stand today, like all day long. And oh God, Emil talked my ear off about it. And I just got a text from Kelly.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that
She's
about?
going to be on tonight. Can you call her or do I call her from my phone?
No, you got to send her a link. You were supposed to send her a link.
No, she doesn't want to do camera. She wants to do phoner.
Yeah. See, that's why I said you go ahead and call her. We can't do calls anymore. We can't do calls anymore because of my new damn phone.
Well, then I'll call her on my phone. We can call.
Emil's here.
Hey. Can you hear me?
Yeah. James showed up, as you can see. All right, James, can you feed her? I mean, I hope it sounds okay.
Yeah, I hope it sounds okay too. I expect it to sound equal to me, basically. So let me give her a call real quick.
I just worry because sometimes when you play audio, it doesn't sound great.
Agreed.
So I'm worried about that. He's got some hot takes on the Murtaugh trial. That's why I wanted to bring him on.
I was just actually going over them in my mind. I mean, wow.
Please leave your message for 214.
James is like, we should have Kelly on tonight. And I go, yeah, we should.
I was just talking to her.
No. And then James is like, you should call her. I go, I'm not going to call her. I've invited her on the show a million times. She's really hard to get. And he's like, well, I'll call her. And I go, you go call her. And you got her to commit right away. And now here it is. Rubber hitting the road time. Where is she? She's slippery, man.
Hey,
that's all I'm
saying. How you doing? Hey.
Oh, there you go. You got a hold of the slippery heel.
All right. Talk, Kelly. Let me turn you up a little bit.
Huh?
That's good enough.
Oh, well, you wanted me to talk? Oh my God.
All right, that'll work. Good.
That sounds good. That sounds real good. Hi, Kelly.
He was beginning to sound like a shunned boyfriend because you weren't answering your call. He felt like you were ditching him.
No, here's the problem. Somehow, Declan, who's 26 and tech savvy, did something to my phone where not only do scam likely come through as scam likely, but like phone numbers that aren't in my contacts list come up as silenced call. So I don't even hear it ring. So he's got to undo it because I can't miss all.
So
these
what you're saying
calls.
is when Pugs calls, it's silent?
It says silenced calls. Yeah, silenced call. And then I don't know how to answer.
I didn't call her though. I didn't call her though. That wasn't the problem. I wasn't trying to get a hold of her. All right. So here's the story that you walked in on. James called me at the grocery store today and he said, let's have Kelly on. And I go, oh, that's a great idea. She's always welcome. Let's have Kelly on. And then he was like, he was kind of like, so you should call her. And then I said, nah, I'm not going to call her. She's turned me down the last couple of times. She wants to do it. She's invited. And I go, why don't you call her, James? And so James is like, oh, that sounds easy. And then so he calls, he books you, and now he's gloating. That's what's happening.
Maybe we're friends.
James is going to have to text me from now on, though, because I never go on Facebook Messenger, and I just have to see his name pop up. And I'm like, oh, what's up, James?
You're also in trouble from Ed. Ed sent me a scathing text message about how upset he is that you're not on camera, Kelly.
Uh-oh.
No. First off,
he probably takes it as a text slap in the face to him.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Yeah.
I know, but it's because of him that I won't be on camera because
it's Ed's fault.
No. It is because I've got a lawyer meeting and I've got a Zoom court tomorrow, and I've got my computer set up to be able to work both of those things, and I'm not going to mess with it because both of those things are important.
All right. Yeah, it does. Sounds
so
like you got
that Ed's fault. I don't get it.
Because if I mess with the computer too much, and Ed knows this, I will screw it up, and then I'm going to be a no-show for court.
And then you're going to get yelled at for that, and then you'll be a no-show at court.
No, because whenever I touch the computer, I screw it up.
All right, can I ask Kelly? Did you see the promo for Who Killed Live 105.3? Are you aware of this project? Do you know what this is?
I'm aware that project exists.
Uh-oh.
Cool.
Because
so that's a no.
No, I see people who are going in and out, and I see them commenting on it. But honestly, how real are you getting with this? Are you really going into it?
He didn't ask that question. He asked the question about, have you seen the actual promo?
No, I don't think so. I might have. I don't think so.
James, why don't you show it? No, she can't.
She can't see it.
Yeah.
All right, well, tell her about the project.
Well, she doesn't need to see it. She could hear it. Let's listen to the actual promo.
Well,
let her listen to the actual promo.
Let's move on. James?
Well, I mean, I could play it, but she can't see it. She can only hear it. So
I'll look it up on my own.
All right.
Do it.
So this is Pugs baby, and we're all running with the football here. And Pugs is putting together Who Killed Live 105.3. It's a podcast. It's one of these limited series. We're guessing 10, maybe 15 episodes, and it's modeled after the Shock Jocks limited series on the Opie and Anthony rise and fall.
That's very good. Very, very well, very succinctly put, James. That's a nice little
trying
pitch.
to do it in 1 minute.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing right now is using Pugs and Parker to have all the people that want to tell their stories about 105.3 on. And so we can sort of compact this 8 years of just absolute catastrophe in a few episodes.
What?
Well, names immediately come to mind, but
catastrophe.
Whatever.
For a station that had the ratings it did and the revenue it did, for it to not be able to hold it together is just a complete business and radio failure.
So would you think that maybe it would be like a program director's fault?
That's what we're.
I think that ultimately the problem is multifold, and I think it goes much higher than the program director. I think that the program director in this particular situation may have been been on autopilot and just basically trying to survive. And we're talking about a program director in particular. He has survived. He's still there. He kept his head down. He did what his higher ups told him. And
how do we know, though, that it was wildly successful financially? I mean, maybe that's just what made him pull the plug.
Well, I know that a lot of our contract times we had to have actual numbers, and there was a way to monetize what the individual shows were worth, and we know that we were worth way more than we were being paid. That's just. Kelly, would you agree?
We did a shit ton of live reads. There's a reason
Yeah.
why we had so many.
I mean, come on, dude. We did like 2 20-minute commercial breaks an hour. I mean,
But
our
I
commercial
bet
breaks were
I
absurd.
guess what I'm saying is I bet you could back into the financials that were being reported by the station because they're publicly traded to what revenue was at that station in that market to see if it was wildly monetarily successful or it was a drain in the market, because you got to assume that somewhere money was affecting this. You'd hope, you'd like to think.
Money always affects things. Yeah.
Well, yeah, in the case of radio, and in particular that format of radio, the problem came with the sales department. And we'll hear from salespeople who will tell you about how on a Friday they're celebrated because they just broke a new record with the amount of money that they've brought in. But then on Monday, they're all being challenged because now that they've broken that record, they have to break it again. I mean, there was an insatiable desire for greed on the part of these stations.
You think it was because they owned other stations that were losers, and so one big winner was getting drained by 2 or 3 other formats that were sucking wind?
Oh, you don't need any complex explanation for greed. That's right.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah,
I like
that's pretty
money.
true.
Yeah, that's it. I like money.
There doesn't really need to be much. No, I mean, stations that were dogs were just sold off. I mean, the fat had been trimmed from major market radio, especially, in places where like one station
I mean,
owns
because
10
back
stations.
then, what, they owned Jack?
The fat had been trimmed since the 90s, and those stations just went away. By the time we're talking about the era of Live 105.3, it was a lean, mean money factory.
Right,
And
but
that
they
was what-
owned Jack. I guess that's the other thing. It was Jack, and it was Live 105.3. And what were the other? Were there any other FM stations that I remember?
There's KRLD that was owned.
KRLD 1080.
Yeah, there's that light rock station or something.
Yeah, whatever the light rock with Delilah
And then
is.
and it is since merged with what was Intercom, but is now Odyssey. So Infinity became or returned to being CBS Radio, which merged with Intercom, which has since become Odyssey. And they're the one of the two big clusters. Or I mean, I guess there's 3.
We shared Live 105.3 shared studio space with Wild 100 and then Hot 100 and then Jack. They were all the same frequency. So we shared, but over at the CBS building off Fitzhugh, that's where all the other stations were. There's a whole bunch of them over there.
Now, since I have both of you together, Kelly and Pugs, when were y'all first aware that 105.3 even existed? Because y'all are from Chicago, and y'all probably had a moment of discovery. Y'all didn't always know about this station.
Yeah, I learned about it in a phone call where I was being fired by Reed Reeker. That's where I first heard about it. Kelly, how about you?
Pretty much. Yeah, that was it. And then we heard that Reed was going there. And then great. How much do you want us to say about this?
What? No, everything. So you already had a show and you were getting fired and told about Dallas at the same time?
Hold on. Let me assuage some of Kelly's fears. Kelly, this is a live stream. People are listening. There is no ability for us to edit or cut anything. So if you feel that you need to self-govern on some of these things, that's fine. There will be other opportunities for you and I to talk in private where we will record without a live audience. And at that point, anything that you want in or you want deleted, that's fine. So I just want you to know, tell your story, but you know what I mean? You don't have to tell it here on the live stream because we're going to talk more in depth later.
To when we became aware of it, we were working on a sister station in Chicago where we had a program director who had then been transferred to Live 105.3 or whatever the hell it was called at the time. And he offered to hire us. And that's pretty much how we ended up there.
Yeah, the phone call was it was back in the time when the phones were attached to the wall, so you had to stand fairly close to wherever the phone rang. And I remember I was standing over the sink.
Yep.
I was standing over the sink in my kitchen, and Reed Reeker calls, and you're just answering the phone cold. You have no idea. There's no caller ID. I didn't know who was calling. I just picked it up. And guess what? I was about to be fired. I shouldn't have picked up that phone, but that was a phone I answered cold. And it's my boss, Reed Reeker. And he says, Pugsy. He's a good New Orleans guy, Louisiana, good old guy. Love Reed.
I love him.
Reed's going to come out of this smelling like a rose. if I have anything to say about it. So Reed goes, "Hey, I got good news and bad news." And I'm like, "Oh boy, okay. Well, what's the good news?" And he goes, "Well, the good news is that I'm taking over a station down in Dallas, Texas, and I don't know. The more I think about it, I think that there's a place for you and Kelly down there with me." And I'm like, "Oh, that sounds fantastic." We're currently on in Chicago, so that's very nice that a guy going somewhere else, but we're not thinking we need to be looking for a job. What's the bad news? And he goes, "Well, my last order of business out of town is I got to fire you."
Yeah.
And then he said, "But we shall ride again." And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but okay.
I think I just got an email. I don't remember getting a phone call.
Yeah, I got a
But-
phone call.
Reed is from New Orleans. He's a New Orleans guy.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny because I just spent almost 2 decades in New Orleans. Jesus.
And
Right,
so
Kelly,
did
he's
you
from-
go?
Hold on, Kelly. He's from New Orleans, right? Or am I imagining that?
I think so. But, well, he jumps around.
Right. But I think
Florida
like his home is New Orleans. I think he's a Louisiana guy.
Mm-hmm.
Ed would know. I don't know. Ed, text me. Ed would know.
All right, so tell me
So
this.
how long from getting fired to starting at 105.3? Like what was the time delay?
6 months, probably. There were some
Yeah,
things that needed
boy.
to be settled.
When was the last time we had to think about that? Yeah, how much time was it? I just remember we started in what I think was like December or November of 2000, and that was on overnights, and that was when we were doing the show from Kelly's basement, and we were on. Okay, so how long? Yeah, I'd say probably the summer. I think over the summer is when we got fired. I think Reed arrived in Dallas that fall. Yeah. Okay, so probably about 6 months. It was probably summer till November
Now,
when
did 105.3 flip from country to talk? Before y'all got there, right? Or were y'all part of that flip?
Oh yeah, no,
A couple years
Kelly.
before. Yeah, a couple years before.
Because I was under the impression it flipped in like 2000, but now that's pushing my timetable back.
No, I think you're right, James. It had been King Country, like within the year of they had only because Ron and Don were only given one contract, and so I thought that was like that 1 year. So it was 1 year. It had been around live at that point, I guess it was the Talk That Rocks Texas, had been around for about a year before we showed up. Although we were on overnights, so we were on the station dating all the way back to November, and that was right around the time that it kicked off. We were on.
Started middays in October of 2001.
Yeah, right. It was right after September 11th because that sort of I remember got in the way of our travel plans and all that.
Okay, so when y'all first started in you said 2000, what was the lineup? Was it Howard Stern in the morning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ron and Don midday.
Yeah.
When we started on overnights, yeah, it was Howard Stern in the morning, Ron and Don middays.
And then Russ
was afternoons, yeah.
And then was
We
it
had
Ed
to try to
Till?
be nice to him. We had to remember we were trying to be nice, and he came with cocktails with us one time, and then that's when people was going, why don't our shows get along? I get along with y'all get along with me all, y'all, and I think Pugs told her to stop saying that.
Now, I told a story from my perspective about what he tried to write on my head, and the fight almost started, and it got very weird, and you were sitting on a lap, and but one of the things that I left out of that story, and again, you can just say no comment here right now, but did Russ whip his dick out at you in the bathroom?
Well, that's a good question. I don't remember.
That's a good question.
That's a better answer.
Yeah, it's definitely an intriguing answer, but I left that out because I wasn't certain if I remembered that correctly, but I thought that was something, and I thought that you had some zinger back for him, some insults? I don't know.
No. I didn't try to insult him at all. I was always trying to be nice. There was more than one occasion where I might have been like backed into a corner or by a console, and I had to like literally twist my way out.
With Russ?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So see, I didn't know about that stuff. See, I wasn't allowed in his studio. Only you were. You were the representative from the show. That was
All right,
like
so
having to go in there.
we haven't heard, or maybe Pugs has, but I haven't heard these stories. Can you just tell that real quick? Or is there anything more to that than I need to know? You get pushed out of studios a lot? I mean,
I think the bathroom thing, it was a station event,
Yeah.
and might have been a Christmas party or something. And
No, it was that brainstorming party. It was like our first night in town. Remember? It was at that hotel at 75 and LBJ, and they had a big whiteboard, and we came up with all these clever sayings. And
oh no, I do remember that, but I'm talking about the bathroom situation. It was like a Christmas party, and he drags me into the bathroom, not like by my hair, and then he's just like,
Are we back on Russ?
I mean, he was like, he grabbed me by my wrist. He's like, come on. And then it becomes kind of like a dare where I'm like, okay. And then that was a bad decision on my part to go in there, because then I got myself into the situation. Although, at fault, because honestly, I could have turned him into HR for that, but it would have gone nowhere.
okay, so that's interesting. So let me ask you some follow-up, and you just answer as comfortably as you are. And if you're not comfortable, that's fine. Like I said, we'll have time to talk privately about all this stuff. Your attitude back then was very, I would say, modern, empowering. You were sort of a modern woman. You were divorced. You had 2 kids. You had this fantastic career. And you were often known to say that you can't sexually harass me, or words to that effect. Like whatever. You chose, and I don't mean to make us sound old, but women of your generation who had to put up with incredibly horrible and obvious situations of sexual harassment, your way of doing that and thriving was to push back, was to, not be overly dramatic and not be overly, oh my God, now I need crisis counseling or whatever. I wonder if you have any regrets now, looking at the way the world has changed and that you have a daughter out there. I mean, do you have any regrets, or are you proud of it? Or, I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be. I'm just wondering, because the attitudes have changed since you were a woman in a workplace.
They've somewhat changed, but I was in the position where, Russ had a lot of power because everyone listened to him and did whatever he said. Now, that probably feeds into the whole title of this docuseries, but he did not necessarily like our show. And by our show, I mean Pugs. So like one of us.
So you felt like Pugs was an anchor to your plan?
The fact that in some way Russ seemed to be attracted to me, I felt like he used my advantage to let him be nice to us on his show, because otherwise people feel like, well, I'm a fan of Russ, so I can't be a fan of Pugs and Kelly because Russ hates Pugs and Kelly.
You were honeypotting them. You're honeypotting them to try and get your own goals met. I appreciate that.
Yes.
I believe I encouraged you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, except you know what? After I went in that studio, neither you nor said program director would look at me. I noticed that the whole time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. I don't remember that.
You were hurt?
Because it was awkward.
Pugs?
I was hurt?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe so.
Well, why wouldn't you talk to her?
I have no idea. I don't even have any tangible remembrance of this entire incident. But I mean, other than just to say that, yeah, I know that she was allowed in his studio from time to time, and the rest of us
not only was allowed, I was summoned.
Yeah, he's summoned to the Dragon's Lair
studio across the way, and everyone would look at me, and I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta go in there. And then afterwards, program director would just not make eye contact, and he'd be like, well, you don't have to go in, but it probably works out well for your show. I'm like, yeah, I know, I got it. I got the
God,
goal.
how long?
Wow.
One of the most interesting things that you ever said to me came when we were at Bell Bottoms. We used to go to Bell Bottoms. I believe it was like every Wednesday night. It was a really
I know
far
what you're
drive, and
gonna say.
it was
I know what you're
really difficult to do that. But it was fun, and I think that there were a lot of great memories made, a
gonna
lot of good times had. I was angry at you because this is early on when probably like our first week or something at Bell Bottoms. I was angry at you because you seemed to hold court. You seemed to find a corner. You would stand in the corner and then you would insulate yourself with like a group of people who were the first wave. And then there was another group of people behind them who were the second wave. And everybody was always asking me, where's Kelly? Where's Kelly? Because I was constantly moving because I was,
Mhm.
an idiot. I was working the room. I was enjoying it.
Yep.
And I used to resent that Kelly would sit there in that crowd in that way while I was forced to go out and, do shots with everybody. And I'm getting completely shit faced because I feel like I've got to be that guy.
Mhm.
And I confronted Kelly and we got into it a little bit. And she explained something to me that I had never considered. And that is the fact that we work at a certain kind of radio station and she is a woman at that radio station. And because of this, she has to project a certain attitude on the air that could be misconstrued by people out in real life. And because of this, she can't walk through the crowd the way I do and bounce from table to table because every other douchebag is going to grab her ass or try and pull her close or try and hold her there. And then she explained to me how weird guys are, something that I had never really had to consider. That like there
Yeah.
might be some guy that she stopped talking to online 3 months ago who suddenly shows up at one of these things. And that the reason that she's holding court isn't because she's some kind of a diva or that she doesn't appreciate what I'm doing. It's because she has to. Because that was an unbelievably frightening existence for a woman, I must imagine. I was a guy with a bunch of these yahoos. I mean, we had, some of our fans were awesome, but let's be honest, that station attracted some scary folk. Do you remember when you had that conversation with me? It really flipped a switch for me.
I do. You were mad at me because I scooted away from a guy who was talking to me, and it was by the bathrooms. And if you remember, you had to turn down the hallway, was only the bathrooms. And he like comes up to me and he starts doing that thing where he's close talking, maybe because he's drinking. I don't know why. And he backed me literally into a corner. And I just I panicked and I'm like, and he might have been being really friendly. It was just, I just felt trapped. And
yeah, I mean, I was never seen as by anyone as a sexual figure, whereas you were. And I didn't consider that when we go out in these crowds with all these people and how weird guys are. They treat me completely different than they treated you.
Yeah, and so that was my first experience. Pugs and Kelly was the first radio show I was on and dealing with people who being a semi-public figure. I remember Kelly said on one show after some event,
Russ Martin's event.
No, it was one of our. It was like it was just a regular event like dodgeball or bell bottoms or Super Bowl or something.
Yeah.
But Kelly's, you had to do like a little stop down, and you're like, listen, I love you if you listen to the show, but don't just come up and hug me. And I thought, that was that's really shallow, man. If I had a radio show and people wanted to hug me, I'd be grateful. But then I noticed that made me aware to just watch next time there's an event and how many long hugs you get and how many low hands you get, like right around the top of your butt crack, and how many guys are kind of pushing their junk on you, and it's like
a lot of perfect guys want to squeeze.
It just made me kind of embarrassed because it's like, oh man, guys suck.
Yeah, you get the worst of the worst
on you. And sometimes it's just because they're just awkward, and sometimes it's because they think it's funny.
Yes,
none of them are fun, but
there's various levels of inappropriate, but that's something I never had to deal with. And since I'm not a guy who rubs my junk on random chicks in public, I just don't think about that happening, but it happens and it's icky.
Yeah.
So
it's Yeah,
I
but when you
suck.
bring up like my daughter's perspective, I worry about that whole casting couch thing.
Well, it's just,
Yeah, your she's an actress out there living in Hollywood.
see, I would also
Yeah.
like to point out that you can't really sexually harass men. It doesn't work the same in reverse. Because if random chicks were coming up and giving me long hugs and grabbing my butt and stuff, I'd be like, "This is great,"
Well, it doesn't check a lot of the established power dynamic boxes.
Exactly. I will
That's
never
for
know what that's like. Right.
Mm.
You'd love to know. It's not fun. I'll tell you that.
No, it's not.
No.
No, because even if
You
girls
got a
did it
choice
to me,
between like your dignity or your paycheck.
Well, but I mean, you have to look a certain way in order to be exposed to that type of pressure. And I know I don't have to worry about that look putting me in that type of pressure. But I bet you there is some form of sexual harassment if you're a good looking dude or couch fee somewhere along the line.
well,
Yeah, except most people's bosses are male. So unless you're gay, it's just
Well,
hitting
isn't that a problem?
we're
But of course, but not to the extent of the power dynamic that exists between the male
No,
boss.
but
and
I'm saying I bet it
what do we do?
exists out there.
Hey, Kelly, let me ask you this. We've been talking about 105.3, and we can get into a little bit more about how dirtbaggy some of the situations there were. But I wanted to ask you, as a woman who did radio at the height of the shock jock movement, we're talking going all the way back to the early and mid 90s when everybody was trying to out shock jock the next guy. What levels of I mean, I guess this is a leading question, but I don't know the answer to it. To what degree had you experienced sexual harassment back in the time of radio before that was really an option to go to HR, where that was your quickest way to get fired? Did you have any of those experiences?
what's his name? Eddie, the fat guy at the Loop. He is in the cast. So,
Yeah, Eddie Schwartz, legendary nighttime talker. What you had an incident with him?
he would call me and leave messages on my answering machine because that's what we had back then. Essentially saying, "Well, I don't know if you're going to call me back, but it's probably a bad idea for you to not call me back," and was threatening me. And I actually said something to Larry Wirt, and Larry, who is our GM, said something to Eddie, and essentially was back off.
And it stopped.
While when Danny was drunk, he would he would try to make passes, but then he would send me flowers. I didn't take that seriously.
Yeah, I was going to say, Danny Bonaducci probably tried to have sex with you a lot. I mean, I'm guessing that was like a daily thing for you. What's that?
Well, honestly, because and I remember we had an in-depth discussion about his marriage to Gretchen once, and because he's like, "Oh no, she would break up with me. We would get divorced if she found out I cheated on her." And I'm like, "Oh, she's not gonna divorce you for that." And like,
she's got to know you seem to be cheating on her all the time. I mean, she hasn't divorced you yet.
Yeah, we had that rule where like if Danny disappeared, me and Neil were like, the Danny babysitters. And if he disappeared, we'd look for him for the first couple of minutes and then we wouldn't look because we didn't want to find him in some kind of position which we knew he could be in. Then
yeah, I was with Danny once. I was with Danny once when he ditched you, and he ended up getting a beach from a listener in the like basement of the China Club. but your proximity
called into late night and was like bragging, saying, "You wouldn't believe what happened with me." Like it was like he was taunting. Like,
Yeah.
What up, Danny?
Well, we were there was like this private party going on in the basement of the China Club, and Danny Bonaducci comes walking down, and I was standing with I think it was Artie Kennedy was another producer at the station, and Danny comes walking down with some girl, and they're holding hands, and he stops and he says to me and Artie, "Have you guys seen Kelly?" And Artie said, "Yeah, she's upstairs dancing," which now I know is probably not true because you don't dance. So Danny went behind a curtain with this listener, and we assumed the rest. But he was very concerned about your proximity in losing you for a few minutes so that he could,
Was that the appearance that we had when Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan were doing their like ice skating off?
No, this was an Ed Zeppelin show at China Club.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Danny was there. This is the same show that I think Danny was racing his Viper up and down the street against Kevin Trudeau. You guys remember Kevin Trudeau, the mega memory guy?
Oh yeah,
That guy.
yeah, I remember him.
Mega
I
memory
don't
does not sound very cool.
he was a late night guy. He was a big supporter of our station, or Danny Bonaducci's show. I mean, that's really kind of he came in. But I remember we used to have him on because he had these like weight loss pens. You could smell you'd smell your way to weight loss.
God.
Doing these things.
Oh my
And then before that, he had the mega memory thing, which I'm Kevin Trudeau. I can remember anything. He was like, on late night TV. And I was just a young intern, and he got off the elevators, and I was sent to go get him. And I go, Mr. Trudeau, you come this way. And he turns and he tries to say my name, and I go, you don't remember my name, do you? I just thought that was so funny because he's the mega memory guy.
You don't remember
All
our
right.
name.
So on live,
I want to be clear. I love Danny. He did a lot to help me. I mean, not in that way, but like in terms of hiring and teaching and learning. And I still say no one has ever sent me more flowers than Danny Bonaducci has. Whether it's thanks or I'm sorry.
that's kind of
Well, yeah. He did a lot of bad things, but at least he knew that he felt sorry for it. So that's good. That's better than a lot of bosses.
I do think he cares about people.
How is his health? I know we've been monitoring that.
The recent update that I had heard within the past couple of months was improving.
Okay. Danny Bonaducci has a mystery disease that has kept him off his radio show, and he's been in a hospital now on and off for a few months, right? That's do I have that right? But we don't know what it is.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I don't like to Google that because I just wait to hear from people.
I hear you, man.
Talk to them.
Can I go?
Yeah, James, please.
Okay, so Kelly, I've talked to Pugs about this 1,000 times, and Abel's been in the conversation, but I've never talked about it with you. And we all have sort of the recency bias, contemporary bias. And when I was on the show, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, you look around and you got Howard in the morning, which was kicking ass. You guys were doing good in ratings and revenue. Russ was doing good in ratings and revenue. I would have never guessed that this station would be gone in 2008. And that's what the tragedy is what the hell happened? It seemed like this is a station that just, if it could hold it together, it could dominate for 10, maybe 20 straight years with this lineup. And it fell apart in 3 years. And it wasn't because I left. So
no, it fell apart over the course of probably 3-4 months.
Right. So let me hear your explanation on the title of the show. Who killed Live 105.3?
Well, if we start from mornings up, David Lee Roth certainly did not help.
When Howard Stern went to satellite, right?
Oh my God, that was the worst show.
There was instability in the morning day part, which is the most important morning day part on a radio station. So there was rank instability there for a number of years.
And then, okay, here we'll equate this to my world. I'm mostly a big Real Housewives fan. There are many cities that it's part of. It's on Bravo. There's a saying, whenever any housewife, like their contract's up and they give an ultimatum to Andy Cohen or Bravo saying, I'm not coming back unless, this person's fired, I get $1 million. I did whatever. Whenever they say that, they're gone. And I think there was some, Russ is still dead, right?
Yeah. So yes, he's still dead.
Yeah, he hasn't come back yet.
No.
Okay, so I think sometimes people are allowed to run amok and they get used to what they ask for, that they get what they ask for. But sometimes it just becomes like, how did we get here where all of a sudden, we're getting cars or free lunches or whatever it is, where it becomes, he has too much power. And then you find yourself, I'm going to say abusive situation, where you're in an abusive situation, but you justify it. Well, but then this is okay, but then this is okay. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting groped in a studio and it's like, how did I get here? Like, how did every little step seem to get further and further from what everyone else would consider to be normal. And I think it just got a little bit extreme, and I think some people got in trouble for it. And I don't think Russ's arrest helped that much, but it also didn't hurt that much because he didn't get fired. So I don't know. I just think it just seems like everything went haywire and turned upside down.
There was a confluence of events that took place over the course of 3 or 4 months. And the first of which was,
yeah, when people ask for things at first, it's like, hey, I want an intern to go and get lunch. Yeah, that's fine. That's normal. But then it like gets pushed and pushed and pushed. And I think that Russ would a lot of times focus on us when he was mad at things. Or somebody would call in and be like, hey, Russ, did you hear what Pugs Kelly had to say about this? Like, egg him on. And it's like, oh my God, please just shut up. Leave me out of it.
Yeah, for some reason he made a choice to divide the station as opposed to being a leader that could, rule a juggernaut. Oh, that was a choice he could have gone down as well. He could have been the great leader who kept everybody together, but he didn't. He felt threatened by everybody else. Everybody else was a threat to him and his crown. I was talking about the confluence of events that I think took place in a fairly short period of time. The first of which was, if you must understand that the marching orders for 105.3 was to compete against the ticket. Okay, that's why it was built. It was built to take that lucrative ticket audience. That's who they were going after. Then the Dallas Cowboys became available. Their flagship rights became available. Jerry Jones did not approve of the Howard Stern station. That was well documented. It was well known. They had gone after the Cowboys before, and they were told completely, without question, that they would never be in the conversation, regardless of the CBS radio network and the power and all that stuff. They'd never be in the conversation as long as we were the Russ Martin station at that point. So
Russ Martin or Howard Stern?
Well, at this point, Howard was gone.
Okay.
So, but we were still associated with that style of radio that Jerry Jones didn't want the Cowboy brand to be a part of. Then Kelly and I very quickly and out of nowhere left the station, leaving a major hole in their middays. They had to deal with angry advertisers. They had to deal with, whatever it was, whatever that blowback was. Now all of a sudden they have instability in mornings because they've never really been able to nail that down since Howard left.
And that's where they inserted Ben and Skin, right?
No,
in mornings.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Jagger was there, but there were issues going on with that show, and we'll talk about that as well. So there was instability in mornings. Now there's a gaping hole in middays. The Cowboys are still out there dangling all of this guaranteed money just for being a part of the Cowboys network. Russ Martin, a month after we walk away, gets arrested for beating up his girlfriend. Okay. So now you've got a gaping hole in middays. You've got instability in mornings, and you've got higher ups in CBS radio going, wait a second. Are you telling me that we can make a play for the Dallas Cowboys if we just wipe out this station? This super troubling station that at this point is not worth all the headaches that they've caused us in the last one. And that's what it was. It was at that point they decided that they were going to become a sports station. They were going to rebrand. They were going to kowtow to Jerry Jones, and they were going to land the Cowboys. And they did. That's not the entirety. I hope I didn't just give up the big reveal for who killed 105.3, but that is a very strong, that's an economic based radio theory as to what happened. But there's a whole bunch more that goes into it.
Kelly?
Well, there's also the time, don't forget, about the Super Bowl with Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake and how that threw CBS into a freaking tailspin.
Yeah. We weathered that. That was a rough couple of days. That Monday and Tuesday, those shows were.
But prior to that, Russ got in trouble while you were there, and they weathered that first storm of trouble. Because I remember he had gotten arrested, and he had come in on the weekends, and he was like making fun of the fact that he had gotten arrested to one of the people that were on our show on a Saturday in the hallway.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I thought that he had gotten a DUI in like 2003.
No,
or something.
he had two. He had two run-ins, I think, with the girlfriend. And I remember
Yeah.
one of them was with a gun or something, because I remember I was on air on the Saturday and he was coming back in through the office, like over there off of Metro Media.
Mm.
And then I also remember that he had blown up Gavin's studio. Yeah, well, anyway, that was just about his bits and stuff.
I was gonna say no, he didn't.
Well,
Yeah,
he did, but he made it sound like Gavin had to pay to put it back together. And reality is he was putting it together with everybody in it, but he made it sound like he was able to, basically deconstruct anything, break anything, and management would pay for it, which was total bullshit.
I don't know that that's total bullshit. They covered for him a lot.
Yeah, they did.
But they'd be fixed. He would send guys from his show to fix the stuff that he blew
Whenever
up
he blew up
in
Gavin's
Gavin's office.
Whenever he blew up Gavin's office, he wasn't blowing up Gavin's office. There was a cabinet in the parking lot where they did all their pyro
Right.
stuff.
Okay.
That's where every explosion that you heard happened in the
Except
parking
one
lot.
time inside the building, they did it in Gavin's office and they blew the ceiling tiles out and they had to come back in and fix them over the weekend. And
Huh.
nobody was supposed to say that.
All right.
I remember because I was told I couldn't talk about it because I was laughing what happened.
All right, Kelly, can you give me your side of the story that Pugs tells when y'all first came down and you met the crew for the first time on 105.3 and you're in some bar that's next to a hotel that's like at Coit and LBJ-ish or somewhere around there?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, this is where I thought that Russ showed you his penis in the bathroom. I thought that was one of the things that got me
He
upset.
entirely might have. I mean, there was always a flex of power. And not that his penis was a flex of power, but like it was just a matter of like, by the way, I can get away with this because I'm Russ Martin. I'm going to do this to you. And it was like me like, oh, okay. Hi. Just trying to play it off because I love my job. I didn't want to leave it because of somebody I can't control. So, I mean, yeah, that happened. It happened a lot. I mean, more than 10 times, I would say. I don't know about the showing the penis part, but like the harassment part, yes.
See, I was not aware that he sexually harassed you. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about propositioning you openly and all of these kinds. I was not aware of that. Was that deliberate or did I black that out?
Just
lay it out.
It's hard to go back there because it was a while ago and my feelings have changed as my daughter has gotten older, and when I look back and I think I shouldn't have done that, but I know being in that situation I believe I made the right decision because otherwise I was going to be fired. I got fired as soon as I got married, so essentially and,
yeah, that's you just snuck that in there. But that's a pretty bold statement that you just made there. You just want to repeat that?
I got fired because I got married.
More on that. More on that in the documentary and why that's such an important aspect.
Yeah.
Maybe you and I will talk. We will talk about well, look, I've talked about it on the stream before. Kelly and I were forced to sign certain legal documents in order for us to continue having a career. And I just think that, and I would certainly never violate her trust. If this is not something that she agrees with, if this is not something that she's comfortable doing, then I will not be comfortable doing it and I won't do it. But I just think all of those non-disclosures that we signed right now are absolutely meaningless when viewed through a 2023 lens. I mean, first of all, the company that we agreed to it with doesn't even exist anymore. And do you think the new company in the Me Too era wants to be dragged into court enforcing
who the hell would enforce it?
No, first of all, no judge.
Are you kidding me? They would all the time. Like they would just turn a blind eye. And then there's a convenient thing that we all had, and we could then it was fake. It's just for the show. Fake. It's just for the show. But truthfully, a lot of it wasn't fake. But we could
a lot of people took advantage of the we're just kidding because this is for the show, right? A lot of people took advantage of that.
Well,
They-
how much are we talking about why Pugs and Kelly left 105.3?
what do you
I don't
mean?
know that we really faked a lot of stuff. Or maybe some letters were really about our lives and not other people's. But
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
Some of those EDs were our own experiences. We just didn't have the nuts to claim them for whatever
uh-huh.
reason.
We had relationships. So just I think we've pretty much stood by. We did what we said we did. We said what we said we did. Sometimes it might be just things like, did this happen to Kelly or Sybil? Yeah, it did. But let's say it happened to Penelope, whatever, who wrote it. We would sometimes cover for, because you still get the story, and it doesn't really matter necessarily who it happened to.
No.
So that's how I justify it. But I think that we're pretty, I would say pretty clean, but we were pretty true to what we said. But James, I don't know. What do you think, James? You work with us. I can't fire you for saying anything I don't like.
Yeah, but see, I'm still in the business, and burning bridges is not really beneficial to me. But
Well, look, I think using the term burning bridges, that's all about perspective. I mean, for me, as Kelly pointed out, some of this stuff happened so long ago. I haven't really thought about the details. And I can tell you that these past couple of weeks now, where I've gotten back into just sitting and writing all of this down and writing these up as stories, and that's been wonderful for my memory. And just the things that have come flooding back. So like when you ask Kelly a question about, something that happened on this date in 2004. I mean, it's understandable. You're getting, cold cocked with that question. You haven't really thought that. Like, Kelly, have you thought about any of these things in forever?
I try not to a lot of the ways, because
Oh,
quiet. No, but like
so
my
sad.
boyfriend Rob, who he broke up with me twice because of what Russ said about me or my interactions with him. 2 times. He broke up with me because of that. Just those are just things that you just.
What about Tyson when you were dating the Dallas Cowboy? Didn't he threaten Russ? Wasn't there a Dallas Cowboy offensive line threat against Russ or something?
No, he broke up with me because his mom came to town and said that his aunts or whatever, who are angels circulating around our lives, would look down on him and disrespect what he was doing and going out with a divorced woman with kids, and that he couldn't be around a person who it had to do with his Nazarene or whatever religion.
Yeah.
His mom came and like the angels were talking, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Oh no. Well, I was talking about the time that he stood outside Russ Martin's window with his arms crossed, him and Kurt Vollers just staring at him. But you don't seem to remember that one. They were mad at him about something that he said
awesome.
about you. So they just went 2 gigantic. I mean, Vollers was 6'8", so and he's a left tackle in the NFL. And then Tyson was a guard, and he was as wide as he was tall. And I just remember they came out of our show. Our show had ended, and Russ Martin's show had just started, and they were setting up, and Vollers and Tyson just stood there staring at the glass window, where everybody else would be asked to move. Nobody asked them to move or anything. Actually, no, I think Gavin did. Didn't Gavin say something to you about your boyfriend harassing Russ or something? I don't know.
My story of Kurt Vollers, aside from the fact that he went to jail, is the fact that he thought that you were cheating in Trivial Pursuit on Christmas Day. Because we gave you the Trivial Pursuit game, and we were playing Trivial Pursuit, and because you did so well at it, he accused you of memorizing all the cards in the Trivial Pursuit game that he had just opened.
All right, here's what's ridiculous about it. It was a Christmas present. It was the latest edition of Trivial Pursuit. We opened it in front of him, and he still accused me of reading Kurt Vollers. He still accused me of reading, because Kurt thought he was really good at Trivial Pursuit.
His Notre Dame education.
Yes, well, Kurt's a pretty bright guy, and he thought he was really good at trivia, and I kicked his ass. I love Kurt, and I've over the years have sort of tangentially stayed in contact with him, just friendly Facebook posts and all that. He's a real lovely guy. I love
very nice to me. I have nothing bad to say about him. I was
Yeah.
really upset that he got wrapped up in all that. But that is the funniest thing to think, because like accusing you of cheating and memorizing the cards is so ridiculous that I couldn't believe he was even like, and he was mad. He would stand up, slam his cards down, and be pointing at you. You're cheating, and I'm like, oh my god,
he got so frustrated that he went into these really immature, petty sort of critiques of me. Like at one point, he just looks at me and he goes, "So what are you, like 6 foot?" Yeah. That's it, like it's a negative. It's like, what are you driving? What kind of car are you driving? And I'm like, well, not NFL rookie
Was
contract.
he really
level car.
drunk?
No, he's just
no,
an
He's just a
that
kid.
way. But he was
Yeah.
nice at the same time.
Oh, he's
Nice.
wonderful. Yeah.
He's like a 20-year-old kid.
Yeah, and he was. He was probably a 22-year-old rookie.
graduate.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that he acted like my friends did in college. Like, cheater. Yeah.
Just no way to process that very mature emotion where you find you've been bested at something by someone. You know, like Tyson, I believe it was Tyson. So you got to understand, he's used to playing this with a bunch of stupid football players. So when he thinks he's good at it, it's because he stumped Julius Jones.
Quincy Carter. Yeah.
Quincy Carter.
He lost Drew Henson. Hey, speaking of that, I wanted to mention this to you, and I'm glad you brought up Kurt Vollers and his unfortunate time served in our federal penal system. Do you know who got released from prison today, Kelly?
Who?
Sam Hurd.
The receiver.
Yeah. Sam Hurd used to do our show every Thursday.
No, Nate something guy did all the pot.
Nate Newton.
No, well, Sammy Hurd was our guy. He was very boring, and remember, we was like pulling teeth trying to get anything out of him. He was an HMS spokesperson. What's that?
He got traded to the Bears, right?
Yeah.
And so he went from the Cowboys to the Bears. Oh, so you don't even know the Sam Hurd story, do you, Kelly?
I do remember. No, he was drug trafficking and like a lot.
Yeah. All right. So back in when was it? 2000 and I don't know, 2010 maybe. Anyway, the one-time NFL player did a decade behind bars after receiving a 15-year sentence. Hurd, now 37, was taken down by federal agents in 2011 while he was still on the Bears roster. At a Rosemont Steakhouse, he shared a table with someone he thought was a drug supplier, but was actually an undercover agent. On a video recorded conversation, Hurd agreed to buy 5 to 10 kilos of cocaine per week at $25,000 per kilo. He's looking to spend $1 million a month. This guy's on an NFL roster. He's a wide receiver in the NFL.
Now, your math is terrible. That's $100,000 a month.
No, 10 kilos. I'm going 10 kilos at $25,000 per kilo.
Okay.
So that's basically.
I have to use my calculator to get that.
$250,000, but it's a bigger drug deal than I've ever done. Yeah.
He's out of prison as of today. So there you go. Just in time to be interviewed for the Who Killed Live 105.3 special. Sammy Hurd.
I don't know. 25 for a key, though. Is that even a good deal? Kelly, is that a good deal on coke?
You got E here, and you're going to ask Kelly if 25 grand good for a kilo of coke.
I mean, 25 is higher than prices that I experienced back in the day.
Okay. All right.
I was being clever. Yeah.
It's going to happen with inflation.
I mean, but, so you're saying 10 a month or 10 a week?
No, 10 kilos a week.
So that's $1 million. Yes, that's $1 million a month.
$1 million a month. Yeah.
It seems like more people were investing more in drugs than in restaurants in terms of NFL players.
It's a better investment. They lose all their money in restaurants.
Yeah. How many restaurants go out of business?
Sam Hurd. He lost his NFL player.
I mean, and how are they valuing the key too? Was that street value or wholesale? because
I don't know.
Well, come on.
Whatever will make them look the worst.
well, but I mean, they'll go a lot of times. The kilo value is $100,000 because there's 1,000 grams in a kilo.
Right.
Average price you pay for a gram is $100, so they do 100 times 1,000. That's how they get to 100,000. But I can promise you, if you went to your on the corner dude and said, "Hey, I want to buy 1,000 grams," you're not going to pay $100,000. So
Thank you.
There you go.
Back to mine and Pug's theory that the only people who understand the metric system in America are drug dealers and doctors.
That's
Well,
it. Doctors and drug
Well,
dealers.
I don't know.
Well, pharmacists too. The pharmacists
Okay,
and drug
that's-
dealers. I don't even think doctors understand it. They just need pharmacists too. All right, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again on this very same topic, and we'll talk and hopefully record privately, and then we can decide where you want to go with some of the more bombshell type issues you've been carrying around.
Okay, sounds good.
watch the promo.
All right, there she
I'll watch
goes.
the promo.
All right.
Okay.
My
All right, bye.
former partner, Kelly Mohr, there on the phone. James, thank you. E, thank you. Oh, there goes James. No, James and E are both gone. All right, we'll see you tomorrow at noon for High Noon. Current events, hot topics, trends, whatever it is, making headlines or people are buzzing about. I bring it to you every day at noon. My voice is, can you hear it? It's going in and out, in and out. That's okay. I took my sleeping pills before I did the show today. Took my melatonin gummies. So I'm going to be falling asleep here pretty quickly. That's the plan. That's the plan anyway. Got to rest the old pipes. We'll see you tomorrow at noon for High Noon. For James Parker, I am Pugs Moran. This has been Pugs and Parker proudly present Pillow Talk on the Radio Misfits podcast platform.
I have found a different way, so baffling to some. I can smile a little now, things are going good. I always had to be on guard, that is understood. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest. I am on a never-ending quest.